Have you ever believed that the coincidences in life were just random? That meeting someone by chance, missing a bus, or reading a meaningless line of text along the road was nothing more than the chaos of an indifferent universe? I used to believe that, and I believed it with conviction, until the moment a string of coincidences ended my life. And through that death, I came to understand that nothing is truly random. My name is Matthew Cole. I grew up in Colorado, a land of snow, risk, and freedom for those bold enough to chase it. I was never superstitious. I didn't believe in fate. I believed in facts, in science, in experience and calculation. I worked in survival training, guiding hundreds of people through deadly terrain, mountains, deserts, and frozen forests. I knew the limits of the human body. I knew that those who lost their focus didn't make it back. I never thought I would be one of them. That day, everything was perfect. Clear skies, stable ice. I went out alone, like I always did. I didn't like anyone interfering with the rhythm inside my mind. I always believed I had enough skill, enough strength to handle whatever came my way. But there was something I didn't understand. Some things don't fall under strength or skill. They fall under the architecture of the universe, and the universe doesn't need your belief to function. I skated across a frozen valley lake marked as safe on an old topographic map, but the map hadn't been updated. The temperatures in recent weeks have been unusually high. That ice wasn't as thick as I thought, and just as I began to pick up speed, I heard the crack. That sound wasn't like anything I'd heard before. It wasn't sharp, it wasn't clean. It was like a muffled whisper being strangled, a warning far too late. I had no time to react. The ice beneath my feet exploded, and I fell. The cold hit me like an invisible punch. The black water pulled me under, dragging me away from the dim layer of light above. I thrashed, but I couldn't find direction. The ice had collapsed overhead. There was no way out. I knew I had less than 3 minutes, but I didn't panic. My body didn't shake. And then something strange happened. I didn't feel fear. I only felt surrender. A complete letting go. As if some part of me had already known this would happen. As if death weren't something foreign, but a door quietly swinging open. And in that moment, I saw the light again. Not sunlight, but another kind of light. A light that didn't shine from any one place, yet seemed to be everywhere at once. And then, I was no longer in the water. No longer inside my body. But I was still aware. The only question that echoed through me wasn't, am I dying? But rather, why does this feel so familiar? In the next part, I'll tell you about something stranger than death itself, the feeling of stepping outside of time, the experience of knowing everything without needing to think, and the moment I realized that every moment of my life, even the smallest ones, had been connected by a mysterious blueprint called synchronicity. You think you understand what time is. I did too, until I fell out of it. There was no moment when I left my body, no snap, no pull, no door opening. It was simply that, all at once, I was no longer a body. No more cold, no more water, no more me. And yet, awareness remained. A kind of awareness that didn't involve the senses. I didn't see with my eyes, I didn't hear with my ears, I didn't think with my mind. But I knew everything, quietly, undeniably. Not like solving a problem, but like remembering something ancient, something that had always been there, waiting for me to be silent enough to notice. I was no longer somewhere. I was everywhere. I was in space. I had no shape, but I was still me. I hadn't lost my personality, my memories, or my emotions. I had only lost my boundaries. There was no line separating me from anything else, and because of that, I could feel everything all at once. I saw moments from my life, but not in sequence. They didn't run from the past to the present. They appeared like points of light in a vast web. Not a timeline, but a structure. And the most astonishing thing wasn't what I saw. It was how everything was connected. One afternoon, I canceled a meeting with an old friend. He went home early and found his son in the middle of a psychological breakdown and saved him. One day, I picked up a book that had fallen outside the library and handed it to an elderly woman I'd never met. Weeks later, she almost mailed a farewell letter to her daughter, but she remembered my eyes and didn't. One time, I stayed silent when someone insulted me. That person broke down moments later, overwhelmed that someone had chosen grace over retaliation. Things I had never thought were important turned out to be essential threads in a vast and mysterious tapestry, all of it woven together like a grand piece of music, and I was a single note. But without my notes, the music wouldn't be complete. And that's when I realized nothing is random. Nothing is just a coincidence. I used to think synchronicity was just a vague philosophical word, but now I understand it. It's the language of the universe. It's how the source speaks to us through the smallest things. A glance at just the right moment. A song that plays when your heart is breaking. A dream about someone you forgot. A number that keeps repeating. Not because those things have power in themselves, but because their timing doesn't follow ordinary logic. They follow a higher rhythm, a deeper order. In that state, I didn't see God. I didn't see a throne of judgment. No open arms were waiting for me. But I felt a presence, an intelligence, a gentleness so vast and complete I couldn't help but fall in love. Not love the way we love people, but love as if I were dissolving into that light itself, no longer choosing, just becoming. I remember once asking, "Why am I here?" But that question vanished the moment it formed, because the answer was already there. You're here because you need to remember that you were never lost. That which you call chaos is only the result of looking too closely. I began to see every moment I once thought was a misstep, losing a job, losing someone I loved, all the missed chances, they reappeared like puzzle pieces falling exactly into place, not to make me suffer, but to wake me up. Every hardship had been a knock at the door from the source. I just hadn't been listening. And when I finally accepted that, when I stopped resisting, I suddenly heard something. Not in words, but deep inside, like a sound that echoed through the core of my being. You're not done. There's still more to see, still more to understand, still more to forgive. And I knew this wasn't the end. I had to go deeper, deep enough to see myself through the eyes of others. You think you know who you are? Wait until you see yourself through the heart of someone you once touched. In the next part, I'll share with you that journey into the life review. But this time, it wasn't just watching, it was a feeling. And that, more than anything, was what brought me to my knees. I used to think a life review was like a slow-motion movie, where you watch yourself being born, growing up, making mistakes, learning, and eventually fading out. But it wasn't like that at all. My life review didn't follow time. There were no moving images. No one sat beside me to watch. Instead, I became every person I had ever touched. I stepped into them. I relived the moments of my life, not from my perspective, but from theirs. I was my high school friend, the one I once jokingly mocked with a sharp, careless comment I thought was harmless. In that moment, I felt the tightness in his throat when he couldn't find words to respond. I felt the wave of shame rise inside him, swallowing his sense of self-worth. I saw him walk into school the next day with a different face, one that hid more than it showed. And from that angle, I realized a single sentence can leave a scar. I was my elderly mother, the one I hadn't called for 2 months because I was too busy. I felt what it was like for her to sit by the window every evening, watching her phone light up and go dark again. The quiet waiting, laced with love too deep to demand anything. I fell into that slow, aching loneliness, a kind of pain that doesn't need to be inflicted. It only needs someone to stay silent for too long. I was the woman who once loved me enough to leave her career and follow me into the mountains. I saw again all the times I was consumed with schedules, while her eyes quietly dimmed. And when I told myself I didn't do anything wrong, I realized, yes, I hadn't done anything. But that's exactly what hurt her most, the not doing. I was the boy I once rescued from a flood during a survival training trip. I felt what it was like to be pulled from the water at the last moment, to feel the first warmth of human arms around me. I never knew that moment became the reason he grew up believing he was worth saving, that he mattered, that he deserved to live. I didn't know I had ever been a light for someone, and I didn't know I had ever been someone's shadow too. I moved through these people, fragments of myself. With each step, another emotion erupted. Joy, pain, gratitude, shame, pride, sorrow, relief, all of it surged through me like a current. I didn't resist. I let it consume me. Because I understood, this wasn't punishment. This was the truth. No one condemned me. No one punished me. There was no angry God, no ledger. Only the raw, unfiltered responses of the souls I had once touched. And I realized, what defines a person isn't what they do in grand moments, but the small things they never knew they left behind. I saw a man who once looked at me during a first aid course I taught. I didn't remember him, but he remembered me. He remembered how I looked at him and gave a small nod when his hands were shaking. That tiny gesture, the one I thought meant nothing, was the reason he didn't give up. A nod, a glance, and it shifted something inside him forever. I had existed in so many lives without ever knowing it. I used to believe that living an honest life, avoiding harm, and staying out of trouble was enough. But the truth is, not harming doesn't mean not leaving wounds. And I had also brought light into people's lives, often in moments when I wasn't even trying. Because sometimes your full presence alone can be a miracle. In that state, I was no longer Matthew Cole. I was a current, a connection, a part of everything. I could see every ripple I had created moving through others, nudging one life into another, for better or for worse. And I understood no one lives in isolation. Whether you like it or not, we are all woven together. There was no judgment, but there was responsibility. Not responsibility for being right or wrong, but responsibility for my presence, for how I entered a room, for how I stayed silent, for how I listened, for how I loved or didn't love myself. I wanted to cry, but there were no more tears. Only one thought remained. I wish I had known all of this while I was still alive. But it wasn't over. My life had been reviewed, but what I was meant to see next wasn't the past. It was the essence behind it all, a field of light, a source where everything begins and where all questions dissolve. In the next part, I'll share what happened when I stepped into the source. Not through words, not through vision, but through dissolution. And there I was asked one question, the one I had never dared to ask myself my entire life. Are you ready to hear it? I don't know where I entered. There was no door, no walls, no ceiling. But I knew I was stepping into something far greater than anything the mind could ever define. I wasn't pulled in. I wasn't called by name. I was welcomed. Not by hand, not by a voice, not by a gaze, but by a deep, unmistakable remembering. It felt as if I had once melted into this place millions of years ago, forgotten it, lived again, lost my way, and was now finding the road home. And now I was simply being received. You want to know what it looked like? It didn't look like anything. It had no color, no brightness, no shape, and yet you knew it was there. It wasn't outside of you, and it wasn't you either. It was everything and at the same time, nothing. It had no name, but I called it the Source. Because in that space, I no longer needed answers. Every question had already dissolved. I didn't hear a voice, but I heard something inside me, as if I were thinking, but from a depth I had never reached before. And then a question spoke itself into being. No words, no sound, yet clearer than anything I've ever known. Have you ever truly believed that you are worthy of love? I didn't answer. I couldn't, because the silence within me had already. I, Matthew Cole, the man who had always lived with strength, independence, discipline, self-control, had never truly believed I deserved love unless I earned it, unless I proved it, unless I was good enough, strong enough, perfect enough. And I saw, throughout my life, how I had tried to earn what I should never have needed to earn. I loved others as if asking permission to be loved back. I worked hard, not always from kindness, but from the fear that without achievement I would be left behind. I kept running, but I never knew where I was running to. And the Source did not judge me. It simply remained. It didn't push me. It didn't reject me. It just embraced me. Like an invisible light pouring through every memory I had, every layer of my spiritual skin, every hidden crack I'd tried so hard to cover. And piece by piece, I began to soften, as if, finally, a child within me was being held, for no reason at all, other than because it always should have been. I didn't understand the source. I became the source. For a moment, I was no longer me. I was everything. I could feel every living being born, dying, loving, breaking all at once. Nothing was separate, no boundaries. We were one. And then the source spoke again, still without words. But it entered me the way light passes through skin. There is nothing you have ever done that made you less worthy of this love, and there is nothing you must do to deserve it. I don't know how long I remained there. Time didn't exist. Everything happened all at once. I saw my father's eyes when I was a child. My mother's trembling hand brushes my hair. I saw myself at 14, staring into a mirror, hating myself so deeply I wanted to disappear. I saw myself at 37, watching someone I loved walk away and doing nothing to stop her. I saw myself at 42, slipping on ice, crashing through the frozen surface. And now, I was dissolving into what had always been there, pure, unconditional love. No one forgave me, because the source never needed to forgive. It only loved. And in that moment, I let go of everything. No more proving, no more striving, no more trying to understand. There was only gratitude. And as I dissolved into the source, I truly thought I would remain there forever. Who would want to return after tasting something so completely pure? But then something else happened. I saw a stream of light, like data. It wasn't an image, it was a message, a mission, a call to awaken, that I wasn't finished, that there was still something left to do. That's what I had seen wasn't meant to stay silent. Not because the source needed me, but because someone else needed to hear it. In the final part, I'll tell you about the moment I returned, about what it felt like to breathe again in my old body, and the things I now know I can never keep to myself. You think only angels have missions? Then wait until you wake up carrying the truth.
I don't know how I came back. There was no gateway, no hand pulling me, no voice calling me home, just a pulse, a soft contraction of awareness, then the weight, then cold, then a spasm in my lungs. Air rushed in, my body convulsed. Physical sensations slammed back into me like a wave, and I breathed. For the first time in my life, I knew what it meant to breathe with the soul. Every breath carried the aftertaste of light. Every heartbeat echoed with the rhythm of eternity. I lay there, wet, aching, disoriented, but not afraid, because I knew where I had just been. The world around me hadn't changed. The lake was still frozen. The wind was still cold. The snow is still white. But I was no longer the same. I looked at my trembling hands and didn't see weakness. I saw a miracle, a living machine powered by something undefinable, conscious love. I didn't scream. I didn't call for help. I didn't try to explain. I just sat there for a long, long time. And for the first time, I wasn't thinking about what to do next. I was simply present. The next day, I returned home. No one knew what had happened. I wasn't on the news. I didn't post anything online. I didn't feel the need to convince anyone. Because I understood, faith doesn't come from stories. It comes from contact. And I began to change. Not loudly, not dramatically. I just lived more slowly. I looked at people more intentionally. I listened longer. I spoke less. I started paying attention to every little coincidence I once brushed off. A number repeating itself. A song playing at the perfect moment. A chance encounter. A gust of wind in the middle of an otherwise still night. I no longer thought, that's random. I thought, the universe is speaking. I started talking to my mother again, not out of duty, but because I knew her voice was one of the first sounds that made me choose to stay in this life. I reached out to an old girlfriend, not to rekindle anything, but just to say what I'd never said. I'm sorry, I didn't see you. I visited my father's grave, not with tears, but with a question. Can I love myself the way you once loved me? I didn't become a preacher. I didn't start giving sermons. I simply lived like someone who knew that every step I took might be the answer to someone else's silent cry for help. When I meet someone in despair, I don't rush to offer advice. I just sit with them. Long enough. The way the source once sat with me. Doing nothing. just being there.
And slowly, I began to understand this was my mission. Not to go around telling people about the source, but to become a moving piece of the source in ordinary life, so that someone, by chance, might catch my gaze and remember they are not alone. I don't know why I was allowed to return. I'm not sure I was chosen, but I'm certain of one thing. None of us is random. No pain is misplaced. No meeting is meaningless. Not even this one. Not even this moment right now as you're hearing my story. That too is not an accident. You might think you're just watching a video, but maybe, just maybe, this is synchronicity. A message from the universe. A soft tap on your shoulder. A whisper saying, remember who you are. I once died believing I was disconnected from the rest of the world, but I came back because I finally understood one thing. Nothing is random, not even the fact that you're still here. I don't know how long I remained in that state. There was no sense of time, no waiting, no more questions. I had dissolved into the light, and I truly believed I would stay there forever. But then something brushed against me. Not light, not warmth. It was the will to live. A pull, not from within, but from beyond. Something or someone wanted me to stay in this world, not with words, but through a grip. I woke up, not the way you wake from sleep, but as if being yanked out of an invisible current. For the first time in what felt like eternity, I felt cold, piercing cold, painful cold. My lungs screamed in desperation. And then, a scream, not mine. Someone else was shouting, fighting to keep me here, pressing down on my chest, trembling, gasping. I didn't know who they were, but I knew they had once crossed my path, in some way. I was saved, not by an angel, not by fate, but by a stranger who showed up at the exact place at the exact moment because he had randomly changed direction 10 minutes earlier. His name was Eli Martinez, 24 years old, a senior studying meteorology. Not a rescue worker, not a hero, just someone who had taken a wilderness survival course with me 3 years prior. I didn't remember him, but he remembered me. Later, Eli told me that he had originally planned to ski east that morning, but a strange feeling made him turn left instead. Something felt off about the ice. Then he saw a glove drifting just below the surface, and he didn't think, he just dove in. The same way I once pulled a boy from a flood 10 years ago, and now I was that boy. When I coughed up the water, when I gasped that first breath back into my broken body, when I looked into the eyes of the one who pulled me from death, I didn't see weakness. I saw the connection. There was no rescuer, no rescue. We were simply two threads in the same current of synchronicity, a harmony so precise, so humbling, it would shake even the most logical soul to the core. I came back, not to tell a strange story, but to live a different life. Not completely different, like in a novel. I'm still Matthew. I still have a job. I still have fears. I still carry my little habits. But now, I live with a kind of awareness I never knew I needed. I started noticing more, the little things, a careless word, a stranger's glance. I no longer drift through life the way I used to. I began to understand that everything is a signal, a song that keeps looping in your mind. An old friend suddenly reached out, a dream that wakes you in tears. They're not random, they're invitations. I called my mother, not to say I'm okay, but to say I miss you. I met with Eli, the one who pulled me from the ice, and we didn't say much. We just sat by that same lake, two people, two lives, two souls who knew they had once been joined by something far greater than either of them. I don't share this story so you'll believe it. I share it because maybe, somewhere, you needed to hear it. Not to fear death, but to start listening to life. Because if you pause long enough, you'll realize the universe is never silent. I once died believing I was alone in a chaotic world, but I came back knowing this. Everything is connected. Everything is right on time. Everything has a purpose. Even the one who saved me. Even you reading this final line. 4 years later, I was sitting in a small cafe, the kind of place people drift in and out of like the wind. I no longer worked where I used to. I'd moved closer to the forest. I teach the occasional first aid class now. Not many students, but enough that I can look each one in the eye. I don't lecture much. I just tell my story, and then let them decide whether or not to believe it. That day, a young woman approached me. She was wearing scrubs, looking tired after a night shift. She said, "Mr. Cole, right? You're the one who saved a kid from falling through the ice a few years ago, aren't you?" I paused, not because I didn't remember, but because I had never mentioned that story in class.
She smiled. "The kid you saved, he's my best friend. His dad had just passed away. He fell into a deep depression. If you hadn't pulled him out that day, he might have given up on everything. Now, he's training to become a rescue worker." I just looked at her. A part of me trembled, but not from shock, from the quiet realization that the loop was still unfolding. We never know who our actions will touch, how many lives they'll ripple through, how many unseen chains of kindness they might set into motion. The day I saved that boy, I was just following instinct. The day Eli saved me, he didn't think he had just moved, and now someone else, because of someone else, is learning to reach out when it matters most. I left the cafe that day in silence. I didn't say a word. I didn't explain anything, but I knew a seed had taken root. And if you were to ask me now, why are you telling this story? I wouldn't say it's to inspire you. I wouldn't say it's so you'll believe. I'd simply say this, because if you're hearing it, maybe you are the next link in the chain.